Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima and we have another jam-packed show for you today on the Mercato. Inter are selling André Onana to Manchester United. That deal will become official this week. We'll discuss that and the replacements that will be coming in for Onana. And Davide Frattesi joined Inter last week. Fantastic deal for me. Is that potentially the signing of the summer? We'll ask Nima about that. Romelu Lukaku, Inter are trying to bring him back, but he's also been linked to Juve in what would be an absolutely shock move. There are teams in Saudi Arabia that want him, Al Hilal for one. Across at Milan, Christian Pulisic is joining Milan this week. That will become official. They're working on some other deals as well. Talking of Saudi Arabia, Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, it seemed like Juventus were the favourites, but now it seems as if Milinkovic-Savic is off to Saudi Arabia. Only the player himself can veto that move. It seems like a transfer is all done between Al Hilal again and Lazio. And this is a growing trend of the way that football's going. So we're going to have a little bit of a deep dive on what this means, not just for Milinkovic-Savic and for Serie A, but just football as a whole. This is something of a paradigm shift, I think, certainly for UEFA. So we'll discuss that. And also we have Kim Min-Jae leaving Napoli. He will join Bayern Munich. That will probably become official this week. In fact, it will have to be because his release clause is only eligible this week. And Paulo Dybala has been heavily linked to Chelsea. He was in England over the last few days. So we will discuss whether it is realistic that he could join Chelsea. So those are the main topics, and we'll have Baggio and Premface of the week as well. So let's get into it. Just before we do, though, as always, this is our Monday show. So for all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode, which we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all our content that we do throughout the week, including our weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday, where we answer all the questions sent in from our patrons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month plus VAT. And for all of you listening on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, etc., we'd really appreciate a 5-star rating and give us a follow, subscribe to us. Really, really helps us to grow and to spread Serie A around the world. Okay, then, let's start off then and talk about Onana. Okay, so first things first, Nima, can you just confirm, André Onana, it's a done deal, isn't it? It's going to become official this week. Can you just confirm that? And also tell us, what is the situation in terms of replacing Onana for Inter?
Well, Inter are not budging from the 60 million evaluation. They want a deal worth 60 million euros. And they're not that far apart, so I think it's mainly down to some negotiation in terms of the structure of the deal, the formula, how much is paid up front, how much is paid in add-ons and all that stuff. So I think, yes, I expect this deal to be wrapped up this week. And I expect Inter to go after Yann Sommer and Trubin, the Ukrainian youngster, 21-year-old. To replace Onana with those two. From what I understand, the negotiations are going on parallel with Trubin and with intermediaries there, and Inter want to get him wrapped up for this season already. They think they want a more experienced goalkeeper in Sommer, and they want like in a short-term kind of situation if something were to not work well, but they believe in Trubin as the long-term solution, and I have to say I think it's a wise decision. I really rate this guy. I remember when Inter played Shakhtar and he was in goal, he was a monster. He was only 19 then. He's a goalkeeper, young goalkeeper with already Champions League and Europa League experience, and he is good with his feet. That's something that I think is why Inter are looking at him as much as they are, is the fact that obviously he's not as good as André Onana with his feet. And when I say good with his feet, I think we need to clarify what that means. It's not that he can receive a ball and pass it. No, we're talking about the kind of link-up play, the kind of vision, craft, ability to execute brilliant passes down the middle, whether it's high balls or through balls down the middle. That's the kind of passing we're looking at here. In the build-up phase, which helps you, which kind of makes you very press-resistant, as we saw with Onana last season in Europe. And that's the kind of goalkeeper that Inter are looking for long-term, with both Sommer and with, above all, Trubin. So I expect those two to come in. Di Gennaro, a former Primavera player, is going to come in to be the third choice goalkeeper. It seems like I think that deal's going to be wrapped up this week as well. So Inter are basically changing the entire goalkeeping setup. Onana, Handanovic, and Cordas all gone, and it looks like 3 new goalkeepers are coming in. I mean, this is the revolution at Inter that we've been waiting for the last couple of years throughout the team, and it's happening now because lots of players are leaving and lots of players are coming in.
Yeah, they sure are. And talking to players that are coming in, Davide Frattesi officially became an Inter player last week. In my opinion, this could, it's still a long way to go. We're only the second week of July, but this could potentially be the signing of the summer. When I look at the price that Inter paid, 25 million, a loan to start with obligation.
Well, it's not. It's a 5 million euro loan. It's an obligation at 25 million. There's add-ons for another 4 or 5 million if Inter were to win the Scudetto and all that stuff. And then you have Mulattieri, which on the side is worth around somewhere between 7 to 9 million euros. To bring that, which is a separate deal. Both Inter and Sassuolo were very, very adamant that this is, Mulattieri is going to Sassuolo regardless of what happens to Frattesi. So we have to look at the Frattesi deal in and of itself, and I think that's where we're headed. We're going to be somewhere around 35 million euros.
Either way, it's the structure of the deal and everything. It's an amazing deal for Inter. Nima's GIF is the first thing that comes to mind.
No,
because I just know what you say whenever Juventus sign players.
You can't compare that. This is a deal with almost 40 million euros potentially. That's not really the same as with the Locatelli deal, which was what was that? A pack of crisps, a Snickers bar, and a French kiss in the wind. I mean, come on.
I've just waited. If anybody, listen, I'm looking at this on the positive. I'm joking, obviously, but I'm just looking at if this was another team that bought this deal, this would Nima's GIF.
But listen, there's a difference here because Frattesi was very clear. He said he wanted to stay in Italy. I mean, he essentially chose Inter. It was the player's will that made this deal possible because he was very, very adamant. He wanted Inter. He was very clear about that. He wanted to join Inter. Yeah. He wanted to play under Simone Inzaghi. He wanted to be teammates with Nicolo Barella. He didn't want to leave Italy. He made that perfectly clear because there was Premier League interest in him, and he said flat out, "No, I'm staying in Italy." And then when he looked at the role that he has, and he was, he did an interview with Gazzetta essentially saying, "I'm a mezzala. I want to play in this position." And he looks, and then you look at the deals that were there, and there was Juventus, Milan, and Inter all interested. But Inter had already kind of worked hard on the deal and wrapped up an agreement, and he gave preference to Inter over Juve and Milan. So
I think rightfully so, because I think that it was made crystal clear to him what his position would be in the team, that position would suit his play, a 3-man midfield rather than a 2 that Milan play or whatever the hell Juventus play.
Well, that's the thing. I think with Juve it was more a question of, okay, you're playing a 3-5-2, but who's going to do what and where? And I think there was a bit of confusion there. And I felt that, and I think in his head it was more a question of, well, I know exactly what's happening at Inter, and I know exactly who my teammates are.
Yeah, there was clarity on his position and on his pathway in the going forward, and the fact that he was replacing Brozovic and that he was guaranteed a starting place and all this. So I think he's made the right decision. I think it's a fantastic financial deal for and sportingly a great deal. Okay, we can talk about Inter not getting enough for for Brozovic, but at the same time, I think they've got a really good deal here. I just think this is another example, and I understand that if the player wants to stay, then Italian clubs can only afford a certain amount of money.
Yeah, exactly.
And that means that the price goes lower, unless
which is what Locatelli did. I mean, Locatelli, he refused to go to Arsenal.
It's just when you compare a player like Frattesi going for this amount of money, and then you look at the standard of some of the players going elsewhere outside of Italy, not just to the Premier League, not just Premier League to Premier League transfers, but also players moving to the Premier League from other leagues. And I just think, Serie A teams they do undersell. They really do undersell. And I think that is something that, I know this was more of a unique situation, but I do feel like, Serie A clubs can be getting a hell of a lot more money. And Onana is another example of that, which we've discussed. We don't need to go into it again. We discussed that at length last week. I just feel like, Serie A players should be valued higher, and it shouldn't just automatically be, because they play in Serie A, they're just I
don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think it's got to do more with the fact that which clubs are interested. I think that drives the price up. Right now, when players from France, Portugal, and Bundesliga, they go for lots of money because the buying clubs involved are Premier League clubs with lots of money, lots of cash. With Italian players, I don't think there is that interest, and therefore the price is kind of might look a little bit too low, and it depresses the price, if you will. But at the end of the day, I think it's more down to that more than anything. I think
the example to follow is De Laurentiis. I know some might say he takes it. I know some might say he takes it to the extreme. But look at his record. I mean, he gets big money for his players, and he's very, very. But then again, then it also needs to tie into how the club is run as a whole.
Exactly.
Napoli are run so well; they're profitable. They've got no debts. That
Atalanta know how to sell.
They can set their own terms. Exactly. Atalanta. How many players have they oversold? I mean, look at. Remember what's his name? Diallo. Yeah. He sold for 40 million to Man United, and he played about 70 minutes of first team football. I mean, it's insane. I mean, I just feel that, maybe that's the case as well. Napoli are a profitable club. They've got no debts, and they can
play hardball. They're not. They can dictate the terms, and I think Milan and Inter and Milan as well. I mean, Milan have reduced their debt massively under Elliott, and Inter are doing that as well now. As well, I mean, they're reducing the cost. They're balancing the books. They're in a much better place financially than they've been in a very, very, very long time. Pretty much since Suning took over, I think they're kind of going in that direction. I think this is before Suning and Marotta got all sidetracked with blinding lights and buying shiny toys with the Conte project. This was what they were supposed to do. If you remember, I remember vividly, the words were sustainable, long-term, and homegrown. Those were the three words that Marotta, when he came to Inter and Suning, they were talking about. They were going to go with that. And then they abandoned that when Antonio Conte came in, because they had to. And they brought in Lukaku, and they decided, the ready players now kind of thing. Now they're going back to what they actually wanted to do from the start. And I think I think that's a good thing. I think that's a dose of reality that the pandemic kind of imposed on Serie A clubs to be financially stable. The issue, of course, is that when you have clubs in other countries and other leagues who don't give a damn about the financial sustainability rules and just do whatever the hell they want. And that's the issue.
Well, don't need to. Don't need to worry about them,
Yeah, no, but seriously, I mean, it's like, it is what it is. But I think it's good for Italian football that Italian football is on the path of sustainability, financial sustainability, and that they've had what we spoke about last week about the TV deal. They're not even getting that domestically anymore. That's good for them. I think a reality check is good for people who don't live in reality, and that is, maybe you need to improve your product on every level without going into detail. I think this is good in and of itself in isolation for Italian football, yes, but then there are other, there's different contexts that we've discussed at length, to death, some would say, even on this pod, about how there's a rule, there's some rules for some, and the same rules don't apply for everyone, and so on.
Yeah, for sure. Let's stay on with Inter related. Romelu Lukaku. So this is an interesting one. Now we know that Lukaku wants to join Inter again, and we know he wants to leave Chelsea. He's got no intention. Chelsea have pretty much accepted that now that that he wants to leave. But they want to sell him permanently, and they want a certain amount of money. But there's also interest from Saudi Arabia. We've learned in the last few days that Saudi Arabian club, is it Al Hilal? Is it Al Hilal again?
So.
Al Hilal have bid around about 45 to 50 million, so quite a lot of money. And obviously Chelsea would like to accept that offer, but it seems, you can correct me in a minute, that Lukaku has no interest still of moving to Saudi Arabia.
So far, he's made it very clear that he's not interested in joining anyone except Inter.
Okay, because just to throw in something else, that Juventus are now also being heavily linked by a number of journalists, important journalists that are saying that Juventus wants to sign him. They want to sell Vlahovic and sign Lukaku. Now, just to get the Juventus thing out of the way, the Juventus thing makes no sense at all in terms of the numbers from a Juventus point of view. I've seen them saying they'll sell Vlahovic. They could do a deal with Chelsea, sell Vlahovic for 25 million plus Lukaku, which is just absolute nonsense. Juventus will never do that. The salary of Lukaku will virtually be the same as Vlahovic, if not more. So they're not saving any money there either. And also, that's before you even get to the point that I just don't see Lukaku wanting to join Juventus because of the love he has for Inter.
Also because of what happened last season between him and the Juve fans.
And that as well. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he was racially abused in a very public manner. So I wanted to get the Juventus situation out of the way first. I just don't see this happening. I understand if Juve are interested, because it kind of makes some sort of sense, because they can cash in on Vlahovic, make back some money on that, and then kind of get Lukaku in on a 3-year deal or something, and they'll probably get him at lower. There's no way he's making as much as he's made in Chelsea. At Juve, or Inter for that matter, he's going to have to cut his wages, and he knows that, and he's prepared to do that, because he prefers the sporting challenge.
How much of Inter bid for Lukaku?
We know that Inter were on a loan with an option that becomes an obligation next summer, set at 25 million euros. Yeah, that's
I just don't see. If Juventus are having to at least match that, and we know that's been rejected so far from Chelsea, if they are having to at least match that to get Lukaku, then it just, again, numerically makes no sense for where Juventus are in. How they have to make 140 million this summer. They're signing a 30 to 31-year-old. He will be 31 when that becomes an obligation. They're trying to cost cut. The wages are the same. It makes no sense. It makes zero sense.
Well, it depends. If this Pogba thing that we think we should talk about as well. With him.
Yeah, we'll come to that. We've got a whole section on Saudi Arabia.
If they were to buy Pogba for a big chunk of money, then all of a sudden you're kind of well on your way to that.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't fit into the whole new cost cutting.
Well, yeah, I don't get it either. But at the same time, that Italian clubs, even though they want to rejuvenate, they still want to have some sort of experience in it as well. And I think Lukaku gives you that experience domestically. And let's remember, Juve are just going to have one game a week in the Serie A. So I think Juve are in an excellent position to actually, push for the title, and they know that. And so bringing someone like Lukaku in, who resolves situations, in the Serie A, is right in their kind of. It makes sense. My issue is, like you said, his salary. Is he willing to cut his wages to join Juve? And is he even interested in joining Juve? I'm not too sure. But from a Juve perspective, I kind of understand why they're doing it.
There's no way in a million years this. I just don't buy it at all. If anything, I don't want to sound like Enola or Aluko. I don't know. Marotta putting stuff out there to try and hurry up the deal with.
No, I think this is Chelsea.
I don't know.
No, this is Chelsea. Look, it's obvious.
It's Chelsea. It's Chelsea trying to hurry interrupt. Yeah, exactly.
But when Chelsea, I don't want to say too much here and name names, but when tweets verbatim read the same from journalists, English-speaking journalists, at the same time, you can bet your fanny that it's Chelsea putting statements out there.
They brief journalists. They brief them.
Let's not.
There are briefings. All Premier League clubs. I'm not sure if it works slightly differently with Italian clubs, but it's very organised with English clubs. That every English club has a small group of journalists that they brief to, basically, and
they tell them what to put out there.
Basically,
it's just that's what it is. And when you see these tweets all coming within 5 minutes of each other and verbatim reading the same thing, it's like, okay, so we copy pasted the WhatsApp message, did we? I mean, it's just that's what that is. I don't think it's Marotta putting that out there. I think this is Chelsea. They want money for Lukaku because they know he's not coming back, and he's not interested, and they want to make back some of the cash that they lost on him. I think that's what it is. But as we know today, as we're recording this on Monday, we know that there's a delegation from Inter going in to start actual talks with Chelsea. Now, today is the day they're going to do that because Lukaku's growing weary, he's growing impatient, and above all, so is Simone Inzaghi. He wants a striker. He wants his strikers to be Thuram, Lautaro, Lukaku, and one more, whether it's Correa or Gnonto or whoever it is.
Get Gnonto, that'd be fantastic for.
Yeah, I mean, get rid of Correa and get Gnonto would be just unbelievable.
That would be amazing.
Also because he's an Inter Primavera product, it would make sense. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, right. So that's Lukaku. We'll come back onto Juventus in a bit when we talk about Milinkovic-Savic. Let's go on to Milan first. So Christian Pulisic, as I said on the top, he will become officially a Milan player this week. We're looking at probably around about just over 20 million euros, maybe 21, 22 million from Chelsea. So that's another Chelsea player. I don't want to use the word reject, but let's say unwanted.
He is a Chelsea reject.
Well,
let's
okay,
be honest.
You said it.
No, but he is a Chelsea reject, and that doesn't mean that he's crap. But he is a Chelsea reject.
Yeah. Well, he's the latest Chelsea.
Fikayo Tomori was a Chelsea reject, but he turned out to be great for Milan. Like that doesn't mean there's no. There's no correlation.
Loftus-Cheek, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, of course, joined earlier this summer, and now Pulisic follows on. Obviously, and we have a lot of American listeners. Obviously, in America, they've gone very, very big on this.
Well, isn't he like the captain of the national team?
I'm not sure if he's the captain, but he is the poster. The poster boy for the last years, Captain America and all that. And I'll be honest, when he was at Borussia Dortmund, I really liked him. I thought he was a big talent. I thought he has the pace, the dribbling, that intensity, that kind of he can stretch the game. He's unpredictable. He can scare.
I think
defenses.
there's a player there. I think there's a player there.
Yeah, I think there is a player there. It hasn't worked at Chelsea. I think he started off okay. His numbers weren't too bad at the start, but he obviously, he's lost the last couple of seasons. I mean, last season was a total disaster, but it was for every Chelsea player.
And Chelsea were a disaster last season, so
yeah. I mean,
I'm actually a bit positive about this signing for Milan. I think he could do a job there if he can stay fit. I actually think that he will do really well at Milan. I think he will suit the football that Pioli plays really, really well. I think this is a good signing for Milan. But I mean, how good and where does it take him? That's it's 10th of July.
Well, he's still young. He's 24 years old. So
exactly.
This isn't. Say Loftus-Cheek at 27, 28, or however old Loftus-Cheek is. This is a player that still, there is a lot of upside there.
And he's got his best years ahead of him, let's be honest.
And I mean, I think the biggest issue with him, obviously the fitness is a big problem. Mentality. He does come across to me, people I've spoken to, he's quite a shy person. And you need to be, we don't want another De Ketelaere on our hands. De Ketelaere is too shy. He's too timid, timid, too meek. I'm not saying you have to be, I'm not saying you have to be a social butterfly and be able to, able to talk to anybody on the street, but show a bit of personality and character and like you belong there. Your body language, I love looking at players' body language when they come out on the pitch. You can tell a lot from a player. I think just that.
Yeah.
And De Ketelaere, everything about his body language is terrible, awful.
He looked scared most of last season.
Yeah. So that is I guess with Pulisic, he does. I'm not saying he's as bad as De Ketelaere, but there is a little bit some question marks about him on his mentality.
Here's the thing, though. I think the difference is that he's been at Chelsea, he's been at Dortmund, he's been at big clubs. He knows what it means to play big games in a demanding environment. De Ketelaere went directly from Belgium to Milan.
Yeah, and he's been in Europe a long time as well, in terms of making his way.
Exactly. No, I actually think this is an underrated signing for Milan. I think he will do well at Milan, given how Pioli wants to play, and I think this is going to be a good signing for Milan. I think this is going to be a signing that they absolutely are going to enjoy. I think this could be probably their best signing this summer. I think it makes sense to me why they're getting him. So I'm not too worried about that. The Loftus-Cheek, I mean, look, I've never been that guy's biggest fan because for the simple fact that he's not played regularly enough because he's always injured. And I'm not sure that is what Milan want to be spending money on. But, we'll see if they can keep him fit and he can grow into the role as well. And together with Benasser and Pulisic, then they actually are starting to... And if they can get De Ketelaere firing as well and Leao, that's a very dynamic midfield. It's a midfield with pace, intensity. They can dribble. The ball progression is good. They have passing intelligence with Benasser. No, it makes sense on paper. It's about getting it out on the pitch as well. And I also want to know who's going to play on right wing.
Well, it could potentially be Pulisic. I think he's able to play all those positions. I think he's able to play. I mean, I think that's why the 4-2-3-1 does suit him, because I think he does have the versatility.
That's true.
And he doesn't necessarily have to have a fixed position either. So
that's fair.
He's good on the counter. He's good with the high press. I think he does suit the style of play. But like we said, the fitness, the mentality, and also he needs to get back playing. Hasn't barely played. So he needs to get his rhythm back. And also again, we are still waiting for that first American player to really crack it at a big club, like a traditional big club in a big league.
I think
we haven't had that. We have not had that yet. And until we do, there are always going to be these stereotypical doubts about, well, it's Americans, they can't crack it at soccer.
I got to be honest with you. I think Christian Pulisic could be that player. At Milan. I think so. I think everything is there for him to show, to really go, and I think he's also the kind of character who he knows that it's now or never. You're 24 years old, you're at Milan, now you have to start delivering. Do you know what I mean? Like that, it's your turn now. This is it for you, kind of thing. Because if he fails at Milan, then it's downhill from there, I think. They're probably there shouldn't be any way back after that if he fails. But I'm actually fairly positive about this signing for Pulisic and Milan. I think it's a smart signing. I think it's a signing that will suit Pioli's football, and I think it suits for all the reasons I've mentioned so far. I think it's an intelligent signing, to be honest.
Okay.
I just don't think Weston McKennie is not. I know there's going to be these comparisons. And Weston McKennie is not that guy, and he's a very, very simple footballer. There's nothing wrong with it.
I know what the issue is. I know what a lot of the issue that people have, I think, with this transfer of Pulisic is the kind of they're seeing the way that the American soccer TV channels that broadcast Serie A are exaggerating. They often exaggerate with the
You mean
Americans.
like referring to Weston McKennie as the biggest personality to ever play in the Serie A?
Well, just making. I mean, I understand that if you have the TV rights, you're gonna try and capitalize on that. I understand that, but at the same time, you have to be. Don't treat your listeners like idiots. And
don't treat your audience like morons.
Yeah, don't treat them like idiots and make out that Weston McKennie is a top player or even a good player.
Or has a big personality, like which he's a chilled out guy. He's a chilled out guy, big personality. Zlatan Ibrahimovic has a big personality.
I don't care about all the extra stuff. I'm just talking on a football level.
Yeah.
On a football level. Don't tell your
don't
listeners,
overhype.
Don't hype these players as being top players when they're not. I think that's the issue that people are having with the Weah transfer, and now obviously the Pulisic transfer. That people just automatically think, well, they just the American channels are going to go overboard, building up Pulisic as being this LeBron James of soccer.
Yeah, but that's not his.
Somebody called him. Who was it that called him that?
I can't remember who it was. I really can't remember who it was, and it makes me laugh every single time because it's such a silly thing to say.
Yeah.
And it's not Pulisic's fault because he didn't ask to be branded that, so we should also kind of remember that. But
I mean, obviously, take interest in the players. I mean, I remember like in England in the 1990s, there was a very, very kind of iconic TV program in England called Channel 4 Football Italia, which was hosted by James Richardson. Yeah. And at that time, quite a few English players moved over to Serie A. There was Paul Gascoigne, was David Platt, there was Des Walker. A few of the players that played in the Italian 90 squad were over there, moved over to England, and they did a lot, but they didn't hype. And these players actually could have been overhyped, like Gascoigne, for example.
He was fantastic. He was a world-class player when he was at his best.
And even David Platt, he was a fantastic player as well. They could have overhyped these, but they didn't. They treated them, as top players, but in line with everything else. They didn't make them the front and center of they are Serie A kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
but that's what's going to happen. You know that. We all know what's going to come. I mean, we all know what's going to happen.
We do, and I think that's part of the reason why people are kind of just like,
I think Christian Pulisic
force it down our throats, kind of thing.
No, I think Christian Pulisic will do well. I think Tim with Viam a little bit. I don't know. It's a question mark for me. Weston McKennie. I think that's going to be. Juve don't want him. Like that. That's just what we know. We know Juve want to get rid of him, and that tells me everything I need to know. To be honest.
Yeah, well, Tijani Reinders probably going to follow Pulisic to Milan. It might not get done this week, but it does look like it's probably going to be done. So I haven't watched much of this guy. I've spoken to a few people. He has a very good short passing game. Yeah. And he's only been a starting regular for a season at AZ in terms of starting matches, and he's 25 this month. So. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. This is where the scouting comes in.
I'm just surprised that they pulled out of the Kamada deal. Like that is to me, that's weird. That he doesn't suit Pioli's football. Was the reason?
Well, possibly. I think
it's a strange.
Probably
thing.
to do with Maldini. I think this was a
Maldini well, of course, transfer. He was a Maldini signing for sure.
This was a Maldini transfer, and everything got held up, and then
It'll be interesting to see where he goes. I think if he goes to Roma, that would be very interesting.
Yeah, we'll come on to Roma.
3-4-2-1 with Pellegrini and Kamada is interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Roma then.
Just briefly, Milan's search for a striker. We got to discuss that. I mean, Alvaro Morata, Mehdi Taremi, Scamacca, Emanuele Mega. I mean, they need a striker, but because obviously. What's his name? Is not good enough. No, not Giroud. What's Belgian?
Origi.
Yes, Origi.
Well, they're trying to sell Origi to the Premier League at the moment. The problem is he's on $4 million a year.
Yeah,
and even Premier League clubs are probably looking at and thinking, we're not paying $4 million a year.
We're not paying $4 million for Divock Origi.
We can afford $40 million a year, but we're not paying you $4 million.
We're not paying $4 million for him, which I think is a problem. I think that's what's the hold up here. But I got to be honest with you. I think Scamacca would be a gamble, even though I think it would be good for him to go to Milan. I think just for Scamacca to go to Roma, Milan, wherever he goes, it would be good for him, as long as he gets to start. But if we're talking about players who are ready, I think someone like Taremi and Morata would be ready to take over, because Taremi can do what Giroud does, but he's also very mobile. Sergio Conceição,
Morata and Taremi are both 31.
Yeah, well, that's what goes against it, because Milan don't want to spend that kind of money on a 30-plus-year-old. That's just not part of their plan. But if we're talking tactically, I think Taremi would be very, very, very good for them. But then, I mean, the steps that he took under Conceição has turned him into a complete striker.
No, he's a very underrated player.
Yeah,
he's very all-round, isn't he?
Very all-round,
very complete player. Yeah.
And it's all Conceição that unlocked that. I mean, he decided that he was going to turn him into this complete striker about a year and a half ago, and then since then it's just been wow.
Yeah. I think this is. I mean, it seems like Pioli's made it clear that he wants their business done early. He wants to be able to work with them on the training ground. I understand that because there is a lot of turnover at Milan, and he probably wants time to work with them. So I can understand that. So I think we can probably see some movement with Milan, especially as they've got money to spend as well now with the Tonali sale. But they definitely do. Yeah, they definitely need a striker, and they need more options. I mean, Milan's lack of depth last year was ridiculous. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. Like just looking at that semi-final of the Champions League, and Inter brought on, I can't remember who they brought on as subs.
They brought on Brozovic.
Lukaku, and was it Gosens? And then you looked at the other bench in Milan, and it was just like, what is this? You know, there was just no one to bring on at all, and that just said it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay. Let's move on to Roma then we'll talk about Milinkovic-Savic. So Roma. As you mentioned, Roma are buying loads of freebies this summer. They're about to sign Rasmus Christensen and Diego Llorente on loan from Leeds on dry loans. They've already brought on Indika and Oa on Bosmans. So I think the positives from this is they're making the squad deeper, which is something that Mourinho was very unhappy about last season.
And he was right to be.
I mean, I'm not sure Christensen and Llorente. I mean,
but Llorente did all right.
Did all right, but I mean, these are okay. If they're squad players, they're squad players. Fair enough. Ndika and Owa should be good signings. Ndika definitely. Owa he looked like a very, very talented player a few years ago, and then just didn't develop. So I guess we'll see what happens there. But anyway, the big story around Roma in the last few days has been Paulo Dybala. Lots of reports in the English media in recent days that Chelsea are planning to move for him. Mauricio Pochettino, the new manager of Chelsea, of course. He's Argentine himself. He's a huge fan of the player. Was close. Tried to sign him for Tottenham a few years ago when Juventus were trying to offload him in order to bring in Romelu Lukaku. And then Dybala rejected it because he didn't want to move to London. He was at Wimbledon in the last week, a few days ago actually. Paulo Dybala with his girlfriend Sabatini, who actually is the niece of Gabriella Sabatini.
I was going to say, is she the former?
Gabriella Sabatini. Who was I'm not sure if she won Wimbledon. She got to the final one year against Steffi Graf, I remember.
No, she won the US Open.
She won some Grand Slams. She won some Grand Slams.
I remember Gabriella Sabatini. So that's the. I believe it's the niece. They're close relations anyway, and you can tell just looking at them. They look very similar. Yeah, they do.
So they were at Wimbledon together. A few days ago. So that created a storm of reports. This has been going. I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, Paulo Dybala has come out in recent hours and said he's staying at. Well, I'm not sure if he said he's staying at Rome. He says, I'm starting pre-season training. I'm looking forward to the next season and everything. I don't think this is going to happen for a number of reasons. First of all, I don't think Paulo Dybala himself wants to move to England. We saw that when he rejected Man United and Tottenham in 2019 because of the country, because of the culture. He just doesn't fancy England from a cultural point of view.
No,
now the caveat to this is his girlfriend Sabatini, who is very, very unpopular with Juventus fans in particular. They feel that since he got together with her, that's when his form went completely off the rocks. Now, she is known as being, she's painted as being someone who kind of wears the trousers, and she obviously, has her own career, and maybe she could influence him. She started doing some media stuff with some English media. Maybe it could be something she might have her eye on. I don't know. I don't even know if she speaks English. And so. I don't know if she could influence him, but I don't see him. I don't see him wanting to go there. To be honest with you,
I think it depends. If it had been any other club that played in the Champions League, I think he'd be more inclined. But to go to Chelsea, okay, Pochettino's there, but I don't know, man. He seems very happy at Roma. And with Mourinho, that's just the feeling I get. That he seems they've got something going on there, and also with these new players coming in, and Mourinho seems pretty united and like everyone's behind him and the team.
I also feel, and this is I've got no information on this. This is just purely from the outside looking in and knowing how Mourinho works and just knowing how changing rooms, the dynamics of changing rooms in football and how they work. I do get the feeling like Mourinho's got all his squad together, including the players who have interests from abroad and could play for bigger and other clubs. And he said to them, let's all stay together for one more year and let's give it a go in our third year. And there's this brotherhood and they've all come together, including Dybala, and they've said, right, let's all go together again next season. And that's the impression I've got from everyone. Do you get that impression as well?
Exactly the feeling I get too. That is precisely the feeling I get about that. He's he's basically building this unit where it's like, let's give it one season together. Let's do something special this season because everything is there for us to do that. I'm with you on that.
And
that's
you see that with the lack of interest in Roma's players as well. Like apart from Dybala, we're not getting any other stories on nothing. Interest for other players. Obviously, Tammy Abraham's got that serious injury, but it seems to be quite stable in terms of outgoing players with Roma. Maybe Ibanez, but the deadline is gone now for the financial year, so he probably could stay as well now.
Oh God, which I think would be horrible.
Which makes you happy, of course.
No, I feel bad for Roma because I think they deserve a better. I mean, how much more are we gonna How much more are we gonna watch this dog eat grass? I mean, it never changes with him. He's never gonna be. He's not going to be in
Nima's weekly Ibanez rant. Why did I bring him up?
Drive me mad. I mean, it's annoying to watch him. Even Gianluca Mancini has improved this last season and is turning into Mourinho's managed to get his head on straight and he's actually doing really well. And then you have that guy running around.
Until he scored an own goal in the final.
That was, I mean, come on, that's not an own goal. That's a deflection. It's not really something you can do. I don't know. I think that's unfair. We're gonna have a proper Roma deep dive for all Roma fans listening. We're gonna have a Roma deep dive with a Roma journalist, looking to do that next week. So make sure to check out. We're gonna do a proper, like we've done with Napoli, Juve, and Inter. We're going to do one with Milan this week, I think. Is
hopefully we're trying to find someone. Yeah, we are trying to find someone. That is in the works.
Yeah, and then we're going to do one for Roma next week, and then we're trying to do Lazio and Fiorentina as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, talking of Lazio, Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. We spoke a little bit about him last week and how his contract expires in a year. He doesn't want to. There's no plans to sign a new deal. Maurizio Sarri's spoken publicly about how he's become a problem. They're pretty much, they've pretty much realised, Lazio and Lotito has, that he's going to leave.
No, it's not just that. They've decided that this is what he's going to leave.
Like they have to.
Yeah, he has to. Otherwise, he leaves on a free, and they need that money to reinvest in the squad. The problem has been that no one's been prepared to pay those 40 million that he wants, except for the Saudis.
Yeah, and that's where we're at now. So there is kind of been a little bit of interest from Italian clubs, Juventus mostly, Inter a little bit as well, but now they've got Frattesi, Milan as well. There has been some lukewarm interest, but nothing really concrete. Other than, it definitely isn't concrete interest from Juventus, but there is, they are warmer than anyone else. But like you said, 40 million is what Lazio are asking for. They're just not interested. Now, it's now been confirmed by multiple reports as we're recording that Milinkovic-Savic is close to Saudi Arabia. Lazio have accepted a 40 million offer that has been made by Al Hilal. Milinkovic-Savic's entourage are absolutely delighted with the contract offer. Unsurprisingly, 20 million per season for at least a 3-year contract. He's on just over 3 million, so he's jumping from 3.2
9 times as much, like 6 times as much.
3.2 million to 20 million per season.
600% salary increase.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. So this transfer is going to happen. This transfer is going to happen unless Milinkovic-Savic vetoes it himself, because the clubs want it. Milinkovic-Savic's entourage wants it. So it's only the player himself that can stop it. Some journalists think it's inevitable this is going to happen. I'm not going to go that far yet, although by the time this comes out, it might have happened. But it is looking like, considering the lack of concrete interest elsewhere, it is looking like this could potentially happen. And I mean, first of all, before we talk about the wider ramifications of this in Saudi Arabia, I mean, what do you make of this just from Milinkovic-Savic himself? Because this is a player who's 28 years old, who, has been painted as one of, if not the best, central midfielder in Serie A. This is something which I've never agreed with personally, but I do appreciate the quality of the player. For someone who, has such a big reputation within Serie A, to be moving to Saudi Arabia at the age of 28, I mean, what do you make of that in terms of his football career?
I don't think it's got anything to do with that. I think it's got to do with the fact that I think he overstayed his like when he signed that contract extension with Lazio, showing incredible loyalty to the club, and then the COVID happened. That's when I think his chances of a big transfer evaporated, because for me, I always thought Real Madrid were going to go big on this guy, but then they decided to go elsewhere, and they needed to go elsewhere because of their financial situation as well. So for me, I still think he's one of the best midfielders to play in the world at club level for the last decade. I think he's absolutely fantastic. He's complete. I mean, you talk about complete midfielders. There's not a single position centrally on the pitch that he's not occupied, and has not occupied and done so really well. I think he's fantastic. But it's clear that I think that contract extension, which coincided with a couple of, I think 1 or 2 years later, COVID, that essentially sealed his transfer away to a big club. That killed it off completely. And for me, it's a shame, because it's one of my favourite midfielders of the last decade. I think he's absolutely fantastic, and I'm going to be sad to see him go, because I still think he has in it, he has football in him, and I think he's still got good years in him. There we can debate whether or not he's already peaked, and if he's going to maintain this level, or if he can do that in the consistency and all that. But I still think that he has lots to offer.
I think it's very telling that in all these years, with the exception of Man United, who, my understanding, never actually made a proper official offer for him, there's never ever been any real concrete bids or offers for Milinkovic-Savic from outside of Serie A. We know that Italian clubs have wanted him. We know Juventus have been big on him for years, and there has been interest from Inter as well. But the lack of interest from outside, and now when you add to that the fact that he's available for just 40 million this summer, and nobody wants him from outside of Serie A at just 40 million, with all the money that the Premier League clubs have, and the fact that pretty much every Premier League club this summer is making big revolutions in their midfields this summer. Go through every single club. They're all making big midfield signings. Liverpool are changing their whole midfield. Man City are making loads of changes in their midfield. Man United are signing a top central midfielder. Arsenal are signing at least two central midfielders. Go through all of them. Newcastle, I mean, they're all buying big midfielders, and they've all got so much money, and nobody comes in from Milinkovic-Savic.
But he's not a high-intensity player. I think that's the issue. He doesn't have that style.
I think that's part of it. But I think that also goes to show that it kind of confirms like this. I've never considered this guy a top player. I think he's, for Serie A, he's been suited. I think there's no doubt about the technical level and the unique skill set that he's had. But I think he's been kind of like a midfield Immobile, obviously a completely different player to Immobile, but he's been fantastic on a domestic level for a team of the level of Lazio, but he's never been able to prove himself on a higher stage, in major tournaments, but internationally, or in Europe for Lazio, and he's, some will say we'll never know, but he's never had that interest.
To me, I think he has been one of the best. When he was awarded the best midfielder of the Serie A, I think he was the best midfielder in the Serie A, and I think that's when he should have left Lazio to have a big career. But of course he didn't. I disagree with you a little bit there. I think the quality is not up for debate. I think it's just a circumstance. Life happened, and he never went. And I don't think he ever was a Premier League style player. I think somewhere like a Real Madrid.
Even if it's Premier League, even it could be Spain. It could be
Spain. I always thought Real Madrid.
It could be Bayern Munich. It could be PSG. Why haven't PSG come in? They're revolutionising the midfield.
Yeah.
Why they haven't come in for him this summer? I mean, there is a reason. If none of these clubs are interested in him, then there has to be a reason for that. So that's my issue from an individual point of view. But I mean, the bigger picture here, Nima, is, and we have to talk about this, is that Saudi Arabia, this is a paradigm shift in football.
It is.
Right now. And it's not just Milinkovic-Savic, it's Pogba as well. There have been reports that, Paul Pogba visited Saudi Arabia over the weekend. He was asked, is he moving to Saudi Arabia? In a clip that you can see, it's on social media. And he said, who knows? Now, no. Today, no. Tomorrow, we don't know. And then he was asked if he would join Al-Ittihad or Al-Ahly. And he replied, I don't know, we'll see. I mean, this could have just been him, he just didn't want to talk. I don't know. But, there are lots of reports. Gazzetta are saying that an intermediary met with an intermediary from the Saudi Arabian clubs, met with his agent Rafaela Pimenta, and to discuss his future, and that will play out of course.
For Juve, this is like winning the lottery. They're getting a 30-year-old that they signed on a free transfer. Even if they get just 10 million euros for him, which I'm sure they won't, they'll get more. Yeah. But even if they just get 10 million,
financially, it will be. He's a huge burden on their accounts.
His wages are massive. They sign him on a free transfer. They sell him a year later for it's all capital gains. This time not fictitious, but actual ones. And they offload his wages, and they get a player who, my opinion about this. I think he's finished at this level. I don't think he can play at this level again. I think, and not that I think it's a physical issue with him. His body just can't do it.
He can't even play for 5 minutes without pulling the muscle.
I mean, it's and that's such a sad thing to see, because I think he was I think especially for France when they won the World Cup, I thought that midfield was so good, and he was such an integral part of that. But no, it's. So
we'll see what happens with Pogba.
For Juve, this is like winning the lottery.
For Juve, it's. I think deep down, I think Juventus would definitely want it. Pogba, Romeo Agresti we had on the show last week or the week before, and he said that Pogba wants to stay at Juventus. He wants to prove himself and try and make a success of it. But that's what Pogba wants. That isn't necessarily what Juventus want. I think look, let's watch this space. Let's see how this develops.
I think it could happen. I mean, if if they were to make a good offer to Juve around, I don't know, minimum 25-30 million euros, Juve will bite that hand, bite their hands. They'll snap it off
for sure. But the bigger picture here is Saudi Arabia the Saudi Arabian Pro League is changing football
completely.
There is $20 billion to invest into football between now and the World Cup's definitely going to go to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, 2034 is the target, because they pulled out of 2030. They pulled out of that bid, didn't they? I mean, that combined bid was...
I don't think so.
They did. The 2030 bid they pulled out of, It's 2034.
Is that official? Official?
I checked it. It was 2030 they've pulled out.
Okay.
But 2034 is the one that they want to go for. They want that bid. And I think it gives them about 10-11 years to build up something, and they're going to invest heavily in football, not just now, because again, Saudi is not Qatar. Saudi is a big country with a huge population, and it's a football mad country, and they have football history and football culture, and this is just they essentially want to be what the Premier League is and what the Serie A was, but in Asia, in the Middle East. They want to export their domestic club football like that.
Four Saudi clubs, Al-Ittihad, Al-Ahly, Al-Nassr and Al-Hilal, they've been transformed basically into companies that are owned by the PIF. And that's who owns the sovereign fund that owns of Saudi Arabia, that owns Newcastle, and also has massive shares in Chelsea as well. Now, that, like I said, $20 million. I mean, it's just insane, and obviously this has a big effect on Italian clubs in the sense that they can come over to Serie A and buy Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. They can buy Pogba. They can buy. Well,
they can do it to the Premier League as well. I mean, there's talk of Bernardo Silva. I mean, there's talk of there's lots of they're going to do that. They're going to build their domestic football up, and they're going to do it their way. So this is just when you have a completely deregulated market and you build it on big fish eating small fish, there's always a bigger fish, and the Premier League compared to Saudi is not the biggest fish because they can pay. They can do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want, and no one can stop them. So this is just a continuation, like I said a couple of weeks ago, of things set in motion decades ago.
Yeah, I think the big change within football here is that the impact this has on UEFA. We talk about it on the pod. I mean, football is, I don't want to use the word dead. I use that word, football is dead. I used that term about 14 years ago, I remember. But, you look at what UEFA hasn't made the changes that required. They would have been protected to an extent from a new player like Saudi Arabia if they'd have made the changes to football that were needed. That we've been crying out as fans, and they've never done that. I mean, players, we know,
they weren't interested.
Footballers earn too much money. Agents take too much money, out of the game. Young players, been taken advantage of, certainly from the smaller countries. They've allowed state ownership to happen in football, which should never been allowed to happen. There should never be any state ownership be permitted in football. Fan ownership, that hasn't been possible in this type of football. The differences and disparity between leagues has got larger and larger and larger and larger, to the extent where we're in this ridiculous situation now where teams like Nottingham Forest are spending more in a transfer window than the entirety of Serie A, which is just an absolute joke. And the difference in TV revenue between Premier League and all the other leagues, and the financial fair play rules and how they've been a joke. Impossible to make a salary cap.
They've not even tried it. That's the thing. No. I mean, they've not tried to do any of these things.
They've made no attempt to make it a level to make rules in football and to make it competitive. And it's so imbalanced, football now. And people like us are we're fed up with it. And our heart is still there because we grew up with it. But it's sad to see what happens. Well, they've created a vacuum where Saudi Arabia can come along and basically do what they want and spend like mad. I'm not saying I like that either, but it's the Wild West now,
it's been the Wild West for a long time. That's exactly it. I mean, it's like when you create certain, when you allow, you can't just say that it's a completely free market for everyone, for anyone with the biggest wallet to do whatever they want, and you maintain that, and then complain when somebody with a bigger wallet comes from Asia. It's just, you can't do that. You've done this for 30, 40 years. You've wanted this. This is the sum of your ambitions. Enjoy it. There's always a bigger fish in the sea it's as simple as that. And so now UEFA are upset, and their Premier League people and their cronies in the media are upset. But I have no empathy. I'm sorry.
And also, Saudi Arabian clubs have literally no rules to go by. I mean, financial fair play, even though that doesn't apply to Premier League clubs, but it does apply to other UEFA leagues.
But it doesn't.
But there are no rules in Saudi Arabia. I mean, they literally can spend whatever they want and not even pretend to be playing by the rules.
No, because it's a different legal framework. I mean, everyone has a different legal framework, and they want to build their domestic league, and they wanted to make it a huge international success. I know, for example, that when Cristiano Ronaldo joined Saudi, Poland started showing Saudi league football, and people are actually watching it. that they understand that this is how they're going to grow. They're actually really smart. They're not just blowing money on star players. They're putting an infrastructure in place, both in terms of marketing, both in terms of structure, in terms of, with youth development and for their own players. The stadiums are fantastic, state-of-the-art stadiums.
What are they doing in terms of grassroots and youth? Because that's something that I haven't seen much reported on. So
no, if you look at the Saudi national team in the World Cup this past time, look at all these players and how good they were technically. That's the result of a long time investment in bringing foreign coaches to set a standard at academy level to grow and develop players, and a certain kind of players, modern players. I think Saudi was one of the surprises of the World Cup. They really, really impressed me with how they played. And so no, look, this is a long time coming, and they feel that they want to create this kind of new super league in the Middle East.
If it really is 2034 and not 2030, I've just had a look. I can't find anything official on it, but I've seen reports saying that they're going to pull out of 2000. I mean, if it's 2034, that's actually bad news for the Premier League and for UEFA. If it's 2034, because that means that this spending is guaranteed for at least over a decade. Whereas if it's 2030, then there will always be the idea that, well, once they've got the World Cup, they'll do kind of what Qatar did and start to rein in and what it's achieved, politically achieved what they want to do, and they move on. So if it's 2034, then we're talking about a decade of this, and then that is definitely a potential threat to the Premier League in terms of, well, doing what the Premier League have done, and that is hoarding and buying everything from everyone, and that isn't going to happen now if the Saudi League is there. But it is going to have a knock-on effect on Serie A, definitely.
I'm checking now, and I just double-check now, and it says the Egypt, Greece, Saudi Arabia 2030 World Cup bid was a joint bid to host the 2030 World Cup by Egypt, Greece, and Saudi Arabia. And so they're speaking about it in a past tense kind of thing. So,
on what? Where? Where's it? On by who?
No, I went on their Wikipedia page.
Okay, well,
so yeah,
yeah. I mean, yeah. I haven't seen anything official anyway. That's what I mean. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. It wouldn't surprise me, knowing how corrupt FIFA is, that they hold it in the Middle East twice in 3 tournaments, which shouldn't be allowed. Yeah. I would say.
Oh, it says no. It says in. Yeah, Egypt's Minister of Youth said on April the 8th that Egypt does not intend to submit a World Cup bid for 2030. And later, June 23rd, 2023, the three nations announced they would not submit a bid to host a World Cup, citing their support for Spain, Portugal, Morocco as the reason.
Okay, well, yeah, well, fair enough. If that's what's been said, I hadn't seen anything official on it.
I think 2034 is the one they're going for. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, just before we get on to Baggio and Premface of the week, Kim Min-Jae, he will leave Napoli to join Bayern Munich this week. How do Napoli possibly replace this guy?
They don't. You don't replace Kim Min-Jae. you buy someone who can have potential and be as good maybe one day or grow into the role, but they struck gold or diamond when they found Kim Min-Jae. I think last season he was the best defender in the world in Europe. I think he was complete. He had no weaknesses. He was absolutely fantastic. And Bayern Munich, if they manage to get this guy, and if they buy Harry Kane or whoever they buy, they're looking like they are going for European glory. And yeah, no, it's we had Vincenzo Credendino on last week on Wednesday to discuss this particular instance, and there's no final decision been made, but Napoli are aware that they struck gold with Kim Min-Jae, and it's going to be almost impossible to find someone who can replace him.
Yeah, it looks like they're moving towards a Japanese centre-back, Ko Itakura. So they're remaining in the Far East.
Yeah. Look, their scouting, it wasn't just Giuntoli, but they have a fantastic scouting network. Of course, Giuntoli was the one who headed all of that. But no, Kim Min-Jae is a fantastic player, and I think he's going to be an absolute beast for Bayern Munich.
Yeah. Interesting. Bayern. They've got like 3 centre backs that are all the same, like in terms of their physique and style of play, like Kim Min-Jae, Upamecano, and De Ligt. So
Only De Ligt is a little bit slow. I think compared to Kim Min-Jae and Upamecano as well.
Well, Upamecano is rapid, but they're all a bit. They're not like on the turn. It's not their strengths, but it's I don't know.
It's going to be interesting to see because do they play with a back 3, back 4? I mean, what does Tuchel do? It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, because he does like to play with a back 3, but maybe that's not the Bayern way.
And if we know anything, it's that the Bayern way always supersedes. So. But then again, Bayern kind of completely fell apart unexpectedly last season. Towards the end.
But still won the league because Dortmund are the biggest bottlers.
That is the biggest bottle job. I don't understand how they did not win the Serie A.
Unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable.
I still can't believe they didn't win it.
I can. I can. Yeah, amazing. Right, let's finish off with Baggio and Premface of the week. Baggio.
It's a bit of a weak one, I'd say, but I think we got to hand it to the Italy under-19s, who are now are they not in the semi-finals? Are they now?
Yeah, I don't know how much credit we can give them though for that. I mean, they beat Malta 4-0, where they scored 3 penalties in an own goal to beat them, and then they got hammered 5-1 by Portugal, in the second game. Although I have to say this again, right? Anti-Italian discrimination on show once again. Did you watch this game?
No, I watched.
This is the only Italy under-19 game I've watched in the tournament so far. I haven't watched the other one. I have to admit, I'm going to watch the semi-final. And they were 1-0 up in this game, and they were actually the better team. They were in control. Then Portugal equalised with a goal that was 5 yards offside. There's no VAR.
Of course, there isn't.
5 yards offside, and then. So obviously they cracked up, and then they got a sending off. Italy player got sent off. The guy that scored, Lipani, I think it was, second yellow card for like the referee gestured that he'd elbowed the guy in the face, but he'd like brushed him with his hand while he was moving and with his arm when he was moving. It was just terrible refereeing again. And then they fell apart after that, and they got hammered 5-1. But they still only needed a draw against Poland on Sunday to qualify, and they got a 1-1 draw. They were actually losing 1-0, but I didn't watch the game, so I'm not sure how that game went. So, they're in the semi-final now, and we'll see. We'll see how they do.
Yeah, we will.
I want to give a shout out though to two people. Luis Suarez, legend. Inter legend and Spain legend, amazing player, the Grande Inter, who died age 88. And also I want to just give best wishes to Edwin van der Sar, who's obviously he's in intensive care and in a very delicate situation at the moment. So obviously wish him the best. So two kind of former Serie A figures there. Premface of the week. Have you got anyone?
No, but there's been quite a few we've been sent around, but no one.
Okay.
I've not seen anything in particular this week, but there was one. Oh, I can't remember. Someone sent it to us. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was once again something typical Premface-ish about whether I can't remember who it was, if we could cut it in the Premier League or someone. I can't remember now. No. Well, have you got Rory the Tory? I think it was. Yes.
What did he say?
I think it was him. Yeah, he said something. Oh, I can't remember. It was.
Rory the Tory did say about Tonali. He said that.
Thank you. That's the one.
Was it about Tonali? Yeah. He was saying that Newcastle were a bigger club than Milan.
That's the one. That's the one that's. That's the one that we got sent to, and it was sent to us by one of our patrons, Nicholas Binns. Now I remember. Yeah, he sent me a tweet, and I died of laughter. Yeah, no, it was Rory Jennings. Who said about Newcastle being a bigger club than Milan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh dear.
How many goals did Haaland score last season again?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you'd think this guy would shut the F up, but I guess not. I guess not.
No. I would love to see, seeing how your last appearance went on TalkSport, because he's a presenter on TalkSport. I would love to see you invited back onto TalkSport, but have Rory the Tory asking the questions this time. That would be like that would just be gold, radio gold.
Yeah, it was funny. No, I mean, given how, but I mean, Martin Samuel I really triggered him. I didn't think I would, but
he wrote a whole article about you next week.
I remember it. It was very, 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 very funny. It was very, very entertaining. But look, at least that's Martin Samuel is a journalist. I don't know what what is he? He's just an influencer, isn't he? He's like that Mark Goldbridge, who's actually Italian.
I think he was an extra in EastEnders once, I think.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's But I got to say, though, finding out that Mark Goldbridge is not his actual name, but that he's actually Italian.
No way.
Brent Di Cesare is his name.
Get the F out of here.
No.
Brent
Di Cesare.
Brent?
Yes, that's his real name.
Oh my gosh. So he's half
Italian. Yeah.
He's half Italian and his mum got the naming rights, basically.
Brent.
I mean, I don't think any Italian dad would ever call their son Brent.
No, his name is Brent Di Cesare, and he's half Italian. When I found that out, I was like, okay, I did not see that one coming. So apparently it's just an alias, the Goldbridge thing.
Brent Di Cesare.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
And he's a massive Premface. Obviously took none of his Italian from his father. No,
so he is half Italian.
He used to be a police officer as well.
Yes, I read that.
Yeah, I knew that.
And he there was a clip going viral because he absolutely lost his shit because people were trolling him on a YouTube live about André Onana being done, and he went full on like Karen live on TV. Yeah, that's
insane.
Because I do.
That's the last person I thought would be Italian.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes get these red-haired Italians. Have you seen them? Like there's
and we got them in Iran as well. Yeah,
and it's like they just don't look Italian at all. But you can actually get quite a few of them.
No, I was really surprised when I found out that his real name is Brent Di Cesare, and he's half Italian. Yeah, I was like, whoa.
That's fantastic. On that note, we're not going to beat that, so let's leave it at that.
No, let's leave it at that.
Okay, right. So, back on Tuesday for the Q&A and Thursday for another transfer special deep dive on a club in Serie A. And, then back again next Monday. So, lots of transfer stuff going on. Italy under-19s, good luck to them. We will see you on Tuesday. Until then, ciao, ciao.